George Ignatieff Theater. Do you know who you are sharing the hour with tonight? Michael Ignatieff.
Two Trin grads.
Really? Two Trinity grads? Really? Well, as a Vic grad, I would say nobody's perfect, but there you go. The last time I was here, I have to tell you, it was for Bill Graham's book launch. And it was so packed I didn't get in. I had to sit out there and watch the whole thing on TV. So next time I got here, I got a better seat. And made sure. So frankly, thank you. I have a pretty good seat, I think, this time for this evening's festivities. Let's start with this. Given all the books that you have written about when the world goes to war, everybody is going to assume, everybody in this room is going to assume that Churchill's your guy when it comes to character, integrity, leadership, all of that kind of thing. Is that true?
Yes and no, which is a very historian's answer. I mean, Churchill, I think we only remember because of the Second World War. If it hadn't been for the Second World War and his becoming Prime Minister in 1940, a few people might remember him as a rather eccentric politician who was often alongside of issues, often made terrible mistakes, and we think of the Gallipoli landings in the First World War. And I think he really came into his own in the Second World War. He was the right man at the right hour, I think. And there was, as I'm sure you all know, a huge debate in the British cabinet in May 1940 as it was becoming clear that France was falling and Britain was going to be left on its own in the face of the Nazi onslaught. And the big debate in the cabinet was whether they should try and do a deal with Hitler or whether they should fight on. And Churchill was for fighting on, and he managed to bring the cabinet round. And I think history would have been very different if he hadn't been there. But I think we remember him for that, and we remember him for how firm he was at that moment. And so he was really a case, I think, of the man and the man together. But like all political leaders, he wasn't perfect. And when you're talking about integrity, his financial dealings were very far from demonstrating integrity.
Oh, do tell.
Well, he did very sweet deals. When he wrote his history of the Second World War, he got access to all the papers, nobody else got it. He did a special deal with the Labour government where he didn't have to pay taxes on a large part of what he was earning. And so, his financial dealings were not impeccable. But I mean, we can't expect our great leaders to have everything.
So leadership does not necessarily include great character and great integrity?
No, well, it depends what. I mean, we all have failings. And I think in Churchill's case, his financial dealings are, I mean, poor Hillary Clinton is getting scrutinized for her financial dealings. If anyone had scrutinized his, I think there would have been newspaper stories. But I think in important things, he did show integrity. I mean, I think, again, for me, the most important decision he made was that Britain should fight on. And it was a very brave decision. And when he left Buckingham Palace after he'd been sworn in as Prime Minister, he said to the man with him, he said, both of us may be dead within 3 months. Who knows what's going to happen. And I think it was a very brave thing to do. If he failed, of course, we'd now be sitting in a very different world. Speaking German, and he would be written into history as that foolish man who tried to fight the German war machine.
So is he the greatest leader in the history of liberal democracies?
Oh, I don't, those comparisons are always so difficult because they're people who are great at different things. I mean, I think Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a great leader because he kept the United States together during the 1930s. He gave the American people hope again. He brought them united into the Second World War. I think Ackley was a great liberal democratic leader, but people don't really notice him much these days because he was very modest about it. But I think Truman was a great leader. But they're all, I think to try and do a league table, it makes about as much sense as doing a league table with universities, which I'm also very dubious about.
Did you read the Globe Mail today?
I did.
They tried.
Yes. And Oxford actually is #1. just mentioning.
Just saying.
But some of these measurements, I think, actually don't make much sense when you get into trying to compare these things.
Well, last time we talked, you actually, I think, went a little further than that. You said there's kind of a cult around Churchill right now that has developed that you find a bit unpleasant.
Well, it's slightly overblown. I mean, it's more in North America, actually. And I speak as a former patron of the Churchill Society. If you're provost, may or may know this. If you're provost, when you become a provost, you discover there are lots of things that go along with the job that you didn't know. And one of them is that you're honorary patron of the Churchill Society. And I think, particularly in North America, there is this view of Churchill who could do no wrong. And I think he's much more complicated than that. I mean, he was a human being with a very long career. And I don't think we do him much service by painting him as a sort of class the same. I mean, he's an interesting and flawed human being. And I think that's what makes him interesting. And great, yes, but also at times not so great, and at times adopting very odd political positions. And I'm not quite sure why there is this particular cult of Churchill.
Does he get marks or lose marks from you because he ratted and then re-ratted?
Well, he changed political parties.
Yes.
But I think that's perfectly legitimate. I mean, he was born into a conservative family, but I think he felt, as a young man, he was quite, his famous saying was that a young man is not a socialist. Someone is not a man who's not a socialist means a young man has no heart, and a man who remains a socialist is a fool. I think there was something in that, but I think he was a great liberal reformer in his early days, and the Liberal Party in Britain before the First World War was the party of reform. And then I think he left it because in many ways his inclinations were more with the Conservative Party. Is that rewriting? I think it's just deciding where you fit in best. And there must be Republicans today who are probably thinking of joining the Democrats.
We're gonna get that. Actually, Ronald Reagan ratted, if you want to look at it that way. He started as a Democrat.
Yeah, he was a very liberal figure.
He was.
When he was younger.
Yeah. Conspicuous by their absence on your brief list that you just said of great world leaders are any Canadian leaders. And I should ask you whether or not there are any that make your pantheon for character, integrity, leadership skills, and so on.
Well, yeah, I think we've had some very, very good and effective political leaders. I have come to think, and I didn't know enough about him, but the more I think about William Lyon Mackenzie King, is I think he was a great leader. I mean, he was our longest serving Prime Minister. He kept the country together through difficult times. He had, which I always think is admirably, he surrounded himself by strong and effective people. He had a strong cabinet. He tended to let them get on with things. And so, yes, I think he was a very effective leader. And I think because of the diaries, we know a lot about him, and because of the diaries, we also have this picture of this rather strange, fussy bachelor who communicated with spirits. But there was much more to it than that. But I think we make a mistake in wanting our leaders to exemplify all the virtues and be, much better human beings than any of the rest of us are. And then, of course, we're correspondingly disappointed. And I think we have to recognize that they are as mixed up as the rest of us, with failings and flaws, but also great virtues. And I suppose the leaders I admire are the ones who, and it can be a lonely business being a leader, but the ones I admire are the ones who do have a policy, who do stick to it through thick and thin, do see what they're doing. And I think Mackenzie King certainly had that vision.
Any more recent names on that list?
I think Pearson was in his way a great leader of this country. I don't want to just sort of lead tables, but I think it's too soon, of course, to tell with Justin Trudeau because he's only been in office for such a short time. But I think as far as I'm concerned, he's a great political leader and dealt with the very, very tricky question of Quebec independence. And it seems to me dealt with it very effectively.
We want them to be saints, though, don't we? We seem to have this need that they be perfect in every way. What do you think?
I don't know what it is. I sometimes think it's because the church or churches no longer have the authority that they once had. We don't live in a world in which there is religious authority. At least we don't in North America. There are other parts of the world where religious authority is still very strong. We, I think, don't trust our elites as much perhaps as we might once have done. And so perhaps we expect more out of our political leaders. But I think often very unreasonably. We hold them up to a higher standard than we hold ourselves. And that seems to me very unfair. I think there are things where we do have to hold them up to a higher standard than ourselves. We expect them to serve the public good, certainly in a democracy. We expect them to be above reproach in certain areas. But if they make a mess of their marriages or their personal relationships, I don't think that should come into how we judge them as leaders and how we respect them as political leaders.
It may be because of the stuff you and I are interested in, that when we think about leadership and character and integrity, we sort of automatically first go to politics. And I don't know if that's really should we be doing that as opposed to academia or arts or culture or anything else for that matter?
That's interesting. Well, I suppose politics is so important. Of course, people with ideas are important, of course, people in the arts are important, but in the end, politics matters because it determines the shape of the society in which we live. It can determine things such as whether our societies go to war or not. Political power actually matters a great deal, and so I suppose we take it very seriously indeed. But at the moment, we seem to be in this sort of very complicated situation of wanting our leaders to be great heroic figures, but constantly sniping at them and saying they're not. And in a way, taking sort of pleasure when we find out that they're not great political figures. I mean, I hate to raise the Donald Trump word, but I do think one of the things that people find so appealing about him is he seems to be absolutely shameless and seems not to worry about inconsistencies or foibles in his own personal life. He seems to just sail through it. And I think that's actually sort of some people, I mean, I think in a way people are saying, oh, relief. It's sort of rather, you know, he's not worried about what people say about him.
Do you, I mean, as you look at how he's conducted himself through the course of the campaign, has it ever sort of crossed your mind that, yes, he's different, but he actually may have some leadership chops that people like?
I think people do like it. A certain proportion of people seem to like it a lot. I mean, I watched, as we all have, television interviews at his rallies and people saying, you know, I really like him, he tells it like it is, which is the last thing he does. And he doesn't he takes this sort of fantasy which is made up of slogans and patches and bits and pieces of this and that. But he somehow seems to be able to connect with people, or at least a big segment of the American population. And I find it extraordinary, and future historians and political scientists will be writing books about it. They were already beginning to, I think.
Somebody said on CNN the other day that he's having the last laugh on everybody who's in this room. Because, you know, all of the smart people on television may want to fulminate about how he has disgraced politics and coarsened the dialogue in society and so on and so forth. But he has completely owned cyberspace, and owns social media, and his followers, frankly, sorry to say this, don't give a damn what people at Trinity College think about him. So maybe he's developed a new style of leadership for the times.
Well, it's a style that's been around before. You know, the outrageous demagogue, the person who will say anything. I mean, we saw it in the 20s, we saw it in the 30s, and we have a rich tradition of this.
So it's not new.
It's not new, but the media, I think, are new. I think what is new is his capacity to get over what he's saying. And the whole thing, you know, the whole thing about digital media makes it very immediate. And if you're talking slogans, that's perfect. You know, it's perfect because it's short, it's snappy, and his followers don't expect him to be consistent. They're not sitting there saying, oh, we're a bit disappointed in the Republican candidate because he doesn't seem to be consistent here. They don't really care. And I think politics has always been partly about entertainment. I think what we're seeing now is the leaking of entertainment values into politics, and it seems to become more and more of a spectacle, and we seem to be less and less interested collectively as a public in what they're actually saying to each other. And that, I think, is very worrying, because you hope that a well-informed electorate will actually take seriously what it is that what it is that their political candidates are saying. I don't think it matters with Donald Trump. I mean, he repeats a few things over and over, but the people who are listening to him don't really seem to mind. They like the slogans, and he's one of those. I mean, there are figures like this. I mean, Tony Blair was a bit the same, and I think not Nigel Farage, but Jeremy Corbyn in Britain is the same. People read into them what they want to see, and so you'll get people saying, in Britain with Jeremy Corbyn, the present leader of the Labour Party, you'll get some people who think he's an enormous social reformer, they think he's this, they think he's that. Nobody knows much about what he's actually saying, or don't really pay much attention. I think it's the same with Trump. People project onto Trump what it is they want to see. And so you have people who believe in more protection, people who believe more in free trade, people who believe in all sorts of things, seeing in Trump someone that they believe. It's really an extraordinary phenomenon. I really can't explain it.
He seems to have a thing for Vladimir Putin, clearly. And he for him, yes. And Putin leads a country where they, you know, if you disagree with the government, they can kill you, and they do kill you.
Yeah.
And Trump admires that. And how do we explain why some people think that that's just exercising good leadership as opposed to criminal?
I think, you know, there is this idea that the leaders are strong, of course. If you look at the way Trump stands, he's modeling himself on previous populist leaders, it seems to me, or he wouldn't probably know much about history. But, you know, when I